2016. A translation nightmare dub of a popular Star Wars movie is discovered and uploaded to YouTube. It has grown a status of infamy for being one of the most bizarre works in existence. 2019. Two nerds live under the same roof. One has heard of this movie dub's existence before, but never committed to it, and the other was never introduced. The riptide you are about to witness is only a sample of the sheer insanity that has befallen your video experience today. A translated dub that has no names, logic, or reason. It is a subject that simply exists. If you continue watching, you may laugh, you may cry, you may even do both. How this rip started is a mystery that may never be answered.
I would appreciate it if the people in the room could enact these scenes from Star Wars Episode 3, Backstroke of the West. I see how it is. I'm sorry, what? What?
In HD, nonetheless.
We're reading the subtitles, right? We're not actually saying what the characters are going to say.
So
yes.
Say the crazy things on the screen.
All right, got it.
Right. I don't even know what this is. This was critical. The YouTuber I follow saw this. We were going to do it. We were going to watch this. And it's a very bad dub. It's supposed to be hilarious. I'm going to watch it right now. We got some guests here. Some people you may know, some people you may not know. We're going to start. Yeah, let's go. We've got... I am ready for whatever the hell I'm about to watch.
And we're about to watch, as the title says, Revenge of the Sith Broken Dub.
A.K.A. Star Wars The Third Gaither's Backstroke of the West. HD dubbed.
HD dubbed, hells yeah.
Now, if you do not recognize that title, that is because it does not exist. It is a mistranslation of Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Bootlegged and mistranslated into Mandarin and then back into English. It is a fountain of memes on the internet, so it's going to be almost complete nonsense. If you're having trouble following, that's why.
It's Star Wars, but with more memes.
So many more memes.
If it's possible.
So many more memes, yes.
That is essentially what we have here today, a dub.
A dub.
A reimagining of Revenge of the Sith.
A masterpiece. A remastering of Revenge.
A remaster.
Because I love it. One of my favorite things that I've stumbled upon recently. Because that dub is everything. Seriously, that dub is amazing. Backstroke of the West it's a masterpiece. It's a beautiful mess. Backstroke of the West, the beautiful mess of a dub, inspired by the subtitles on a bootleg copy of Revenge of the Sith. Well over a decade ago now. Still have no clue who the people are behind it, but you know what? They did a beautiful job. This dub is such a masterpiece that it can't even be treated as Revenge of the Sith still. It is its own thing. They are no longer the same movie. They are two separate entities. Backstroke of the West is such a masterpiece of a dub, it feels like a separate movie. Because those bootleg subtitles were just... they are gold. They are a la gold, if you will. Backstroke of the West is just a masterpiece.
We actually reacted to a good solid 5 minutes of this before absolutely losing our minds at how utterly absurd it was. Yeah, it was fantastic. So that video is also up on the channel.
It's literally called Backstroke of the West. When I first saw it, I broke down. It is a very powerful message. The art is very subjective to the wielder. Art is the blinking of course. The eye of the wielder, so the holder.
I think there was one that like somebody had like the movie, but they had like English subtitles, but it was sort of like the subtitles were horribly like way off. It's like, you know how they do like those Google Translate like from English to another language and back to English? Yeah. It was like that. So instead of the movie being called Revenge of the Sith, it was called like Backstroke of the West or something.
Oh god. Backstroke of the West? That sounds like a really bad porn title.
Ugh.
Playing this feels like you're watching a ripped Chinese dub of Attack of the Clones while high and holding an Xbox controller. Also, if you've never actually just watched Star Wars The Third Gather's Backstroke of the West, you need to just go see it.
Well, anyways, I'm saying this because
I don't know if I told this story already, but I don't think you've heard it. When Star Wars Episode 3 came out in 2005, it got, like, the DVD release. Chinese bootleggers got a hold of it, and republished it. Except for some reason, there is these subtitles that you could turn on called English Chinese, and everything was fucking mangled. And it was called Star Wars The Third Gatherer's Backstroke of the West, which is what they translated into from Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith. English Chinese is not a real language. It's just something that exists only in the wonderful bootleg world of The Third Gatherer's Backstroke of the West. And this is where Do Not Want came from. And also, some insane people ripped a DVD copy of the movie into Adobe Premiere and did an English dub of the English Chinese version and uploaded it onto YouTube, like in 2016. And Disney has not taken it down. So if you ever want to watch the better version of Revenge of the Sith, watch this. But if you want to know what's going on, turn on the YouTube closed captions because they uploaded a captions file so you see the original lines. Or watch original Revenge of the Sith first and then watch this. Because this is gold.
Oh my god, this is amazing. So, as many of you know, I'm a hardcore TV tropes nerd. So, I started with Pokemon. And by method of that, I wound up at Pokemon Crystal, like Vietnamese Crystal, which led to the page Translation Trainwreck, which led me to Backstroke of the West, and also the Star Wars Gatherings, my bad, which might be the funniest thing I've seen in a long time. Thank you, world, for bringing this to life.
I found the most amazing thing I've seen in a long time. It's a pirated version of Star Wars Episode 3 that has been translated to Chinese and then back to English digitally.
So while I think this comment is hilarious and funny, I actually have a better answer for what the Wish version of Revenge of the Sith is. This is called Backstroke of the West. It is the full version of Revenge of the Sith. It's on YouTube. But what they've done is they've taken the subtitles, translated them into Mandarin, and then translated them back into English, and then dubbed everything over in English with the translated subtitles. Honestly, it's just a wealth of prequel memes. Go check it out. Star Wars The Third Gatherer's Backstroke of the West.
If you're as much of a Star Wars fan as I am, please don't click away from this video. You won't regret it. There is a video on YouTube that I bet most of you haven't seen that I think is probably the best Star Wars film ever made. It's called Backstroke of the West. If you like Star Wars, you'll get a kick out of this. So basically it's Revenge of the Sith, but it's been translated into Mandarin Chinese, translated back into English, and then those translations were used to dub over the original film. It's quite entertaining to watch, and at the end of this clip I will put a few of the highlights in.
One thing I don't see on this app a lot is people talking about Backstroke of the West. Basically, it's like taking the Revenge of the Sith subtitles that are in Chinese, translating them back to English, and then getting English-speaking actors to reprise those roles.
Alright, since I know Backstroke of the West is starting to make its way around TikTok, because I have seen a couple videos on here, and it makes me so happy, because I know it's starting to sort of pop off, and as someone who recently got into it myself, I love it, but it could be confusing. And I found out way later that apparently there's a wiki, but even that I'm kind of debating on some of their thoughts. Well, I'm thinking of Backstroke of the West again. Because me reading The Tragedy That Reached the Man seems to be popping off now.
And to that I say, here's Backstroke of the West highlights part 2.
How much I can quote Backstroke of the West. Seriously, that movie just gives the best quotes. Seriously, this is so much more quotable and more fun. Like, so isn't it a sad thing that I can quote more from Backstroke of the West than the actual movie Revenge of the Sith? It has so many good moments. I can quote this more than the actual movie. Which I can oddly quote more than the actual movie. I mean, they're so stupid you get them stuck in your head, okay? Because how can you forget the classics? Like, seriously, to be honest, Backstroke of the West is far more quotable than Revenge of the Sith ever was. And I quote that movie too, which is... I'm acting like it's two separate movies. Things I will still never get over about myself. The fact that, as much as I love Revenge of the Sith, I can quote the dub of the bootleg subtitles for it better than the actual movie. And again, because I can quote Backstroke of the West better than the movie, it's an actual dub of... But the fact that I can quote that more than the actual movie, I will never be over that.
This is based on an old, allegedly, what was a Chinese bootleg of the movie Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. And I don't know, it could be a hoax, but it came out back then, this translation that somebody allegedly in China translated the script of that movie into Chinese, like to subtitle it, but then inexplicably they translated it back into English. And this is what that is. This was later. This was never a part of that original thing. This is from a couple years ago, where these guys actually dubbed it with these words. And so the word it was translated from English to Chinese to English, but it did not work.
I came across something a few weeks ago on TikTok, and I wanted to share it with you guys today. It's called The Backstroke of the West.
Yeah.
The
West or the West?
West, as in, I thought you said West.
West? Which way?
So what the Backstroke of the West is they translated Revenge of the Sith into Mandarin, and then translate it back to English and dubbed over with those translations.
Ooh.
We're going to watch Star Wars,
The Third Gatherers, Backstroke of the West. I've already seen this, might I add.
All right, so could you explain to them what it is?
So, from what I understand, it is a poorly translated version of Star Wars Episode 3, translated into Chinese and then translated back into English. And it has dub, like voice acting and everything like that. It has subtitles. And I watched this with my dad, and one of the great pleasures of it is, of course, it's terribly dubbed, so it's hilarious. But also, as you watch it, you try to piece together what everything means. And by the end of it, I couldn't piece together what everything means. But you have to use your knowledge of prequel quotes to figure out what anyone's saying.
Today we are going to be watching Star War, the third, how do we say this?
Yeah, it's Star War,
the Third Gathering, Backstroke of the West.
Star Wars Backstroke of the West is a Chinese bootleg of a work print copy of Star Wars Episode 3 with English subtitles, but they're English adjacent.
So they had to translate it over for Chinese people so they can understand. But if you translate it back one more time to our language, there's quite a bit missing in translation. I'm excited to watch this with you.
Absolutely, me too.
This is going to be fun. Remember, everyone, I barely know the prequel trilogy at all, so I might not be just shouting at the subtitles. It might also be just, what the hell is this? Why is that happening? I want you to understand that this does not represent real political relations between the West and China.
Yes, absolutely, guys. And it, just so you know, yeah, we're all good-hearted people here, just trying to have a good time. We're not being racist or anything. We just think this is we're gonna watch one of our favorite movies, but in a whole new kind of fun way. So
I don't know if any of you have heard of this particular version of Star Wars Episode 3. Yeah, I know it's another Star Wars fan edit, but Star Wars: The Third Gathering, Backstroke of the West. That is the actual title of this edit, and this is probably the most entertaining any of the prequels have ever been. A little bit of backstory for Backstroke of the West. A lot of really big name movies
from the States, I guess, and even smaller movies, in fact. They get bootleg DVD releases in China to varying degrees of quality. And in this particular case, there was a pretty rough bootleg DVD of Star Wars Episode 3. Very rough Chinese translation. So taking this rough bootleg Chinese translation of Episode 3, retranslating it poorly back into English, a very talented group of voice actors actually went through the trouble of redubbing their voices over everything in Star Wars Episode 3, reading these poorly twice translated bootleg subtitles. If you're following the movie and like actually trying to follow the movie, you can kind of pick up on hints of plot, especially if you've seen Episode 3 and you already obviously know the direction it's going to go. There are recurring phrases. There are character names. The whole thing plays out like a fever dream, though. It's unreal how ridiculous it gets.
Now, here's one that takes a bit of explaining. Right around the time that Revenge of the Sith was released in 2005, there was a work print that somehow got leaked that was sold as a bootleg DVD in China. Now, whoever put that DVD together obviously included Chinese subtitles of the movie, but they also included an English subtitle track. However, that English subtitle track wasn't transcribed from the movie's actual dialogue, but was translated from the Chinese subtitles. So English to Chinese, back to English, and in the process, things were gloriously muddled. The title, for instance, somehow went from Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith to Star War, The Third Gathers, The Backstroke of the West. And it just gets better from there. So much so that several years ago, a group of fans did the Lord's work and brought that subtitle track to life in a dubbed version that's just delightful. This is canon, by the way, and no one can tell me otherwise. Backstroke of the West, which I will now and forever consider to be that movie's actual title, is just one of a plethora of Star Wars edits out there.
And it is amazing. Because, of course, the Chinese subtitles are just terrible, like Google Translate terrible. Then having English actors voice those terrible lines is just, it makes a movie so much better. Star Wars The Third Gathers, Backstroke of the West.
Oh, God.
According to him, the bootleggers ran the English subtitles through a machine to translate the script into Mandarin, which was then spoken by the Chinese actors, or Chinese voice actors. Now, here's the thing. To get the English subtitles on the Chinese bootleg copy, the bootleggers then ran the translated Mandarin script through a machine that translated it back into English. Now, that sounds all kinds of messed up, right?
Alright, so basically, we're watching Star Wars Episode 3, but it's been translated into all the languages and then back to...
It's been translated poorly into Chinese, then translated back into English. And it's terrible. I've already seen it with my dad, and by the end of the 2 hours, we were all laughing nonstop. It was hilarious. We had headaches by the end of it, and I would pay money to see good old Hero Brian's reaction to it.
My friend suggested this to me. He knows I'm a big Star Wars fan, so he said, "George, just watch this. It'll be funny. Like, it's so funny, you'll cry with laughter." And I said, why not do a reaction video? A Chinese version of Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith, but after bad translation.
Čak je nastao dub koji imamo na YouTube-u. Star Wars The Third Gathers Backstroke of the West, kako je prevedeno sa Star Wars The Third Gathers Backstroke of the West, ili ti, neko bi rekli, tako loš prevod da je da je dobar i zločin prema celom čovečanstvu koliko je dobar. I to se pojavilo na YouTube kanalu The Third Gathers. Znači možete ukucati Star Wars The Third Gathers Backstroke of the West i naći ćete, kao i uvek, moj partner je Meme Crime, Marin Magda, koji se potpisuje kao T. Clifto. I jedan od najpoznatijih mimova je Do Not Want, odnosno kako je prevedeno Darth Vaderovo No sa 15. Let them pass between us. Scena kada propuštaju da Vulture Bridi prolete između Anakina i Obi-Wana na početku filma, kad idu ka Krivusovi krstarici. Our dichotomy opens the combat.
And it's called apparently Backstroke of the West.
Are you aware of Backstroke of the West, Chris?
No.
Oh, so, wow. Not long after Sith came out, if you remember that Sith actually leaked onto the internet mere days after its cinema release, there was a work print leak. And that, I think it's the work print that got copied.
Yeah, I think it was, yeah.
Was like dubbed. Well, so it wasn't dubbed, it was like subtitled by no one really knows whether it was like, I've read things that say it was actually done on purpose, but I don't think it was. I think it legitimately was actually something.
Yeah, I think it was translated one way and then translated by a computer back again.
Yeah,
so
like
it was
Chinese, something like that.
Yeah, it was a very brutal translation because it was just taken completely literally.
So it's the whole film with an absolute insane translation. The thing I always remember is they refer to Obi-Wan as Big Elephant. That's the one I always remember.
I haven't got that one, don't worry.
I can't. It's like, do not attack Big Elephant. He is the one or whatever.
Well, like that bit where they meet Grievous, and I watched that version you gave me. They dubbed it, and Grievous just goes, "Smelly boy."
Yeah, it's a classic sort of like 2000s stoner kind of watch. Have you seen the Harry Potter one?
What's that called?
Wizard People.
Yeah,
seen that one, Dear Reader? Which is a bloke did that on purpose, but they're similar sort of like stoned university people after the night out watch it. But anyway, so you've got a quiz about Backstroke.
I've got some of the character names, what they're called in the Backstroke of the West quiz. So I'm going to say the name. You've got to guess who this character is.
Okay.
I can give you a line with their name in as well. And we've got some characters and we've got some terminology. Cool. So we'll start with Chris.
I mean, the fact that this leaked, it's of no use to anyone. It's gibberish.
It is funny to watch, actually. It does make it more like yeah, it does make it more fun.
Bootleg Chinese copy of Revenge of the Sith called Star Wars Backstroke of the West. Backstroke of the West was originally made as a bootleg DVD copy of Revenge of the Sith. You know, when you go in like a shitty alley and you see someone selling like DVDs and they're all pirated? This was one of them, but Chinese. And it was very poorly translated. So someone translated it back to English and created probably one of the best things I've ever seen. I mean, the best thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, cause see, it'll be a non-stop laugh track, trust me.
I think it's only fair, as a Star Wars fan, to have at least one movie night with this iconic movie.
Star Wars!
We're watching Star Wars. Yeah, we're watching Backstroke of the West, the infamous Chinese bootleg of Star Wars Episode 3.
The Third Gathers.
Woo! The Backstroke of the West.
You have no idea how much I'm hyped to finally watch the whole thing.
It is time.